Hi everybody, it's Dave with you again. Before we get started on today's film, we put out a little disclaimer right here. Some of the things that you probably going to see and hear me say may or may not be true. Okay, what you're looking at right here is an early map showing the location of a couple of the forts that are key to the story that we're going to be telling today. They start out in Huntsville, and this dotted line, as you can see on the map, is indicated as being the route of General Jackson as he came down through Morgan, Marshall, Blunt, all these counties into St. Clair till he finally got to Fort Strother. I think that's how you pronounce it. Right here at the Neely Henry Dam. Now we'll be going in there here pretty soon to show you this location. From there he conducted campaigns down to Talladega, where we're going to wind up at one point today. So let's switch maps. What you're looking at is a map of Talladega in 1882. Prior to 1882, before 1832, it was not known as Talladega. Talladega was known back then to be called Big Spring or Village Spring, and later on Battleground. As you'll see indicated right here on the map as Battleground, this fork of the road right here, this one is Highway 21 going down to Sylacauga. This is the road going out through Renfro. So they indicated as the Battleground being right there. I tend to believe that to be true because there's over 1,000 Indians fighting, and not in one of those places. This is 1/4 mile, or excuse me, it's 1/2 mile to the fort where it was located down here. What you're looking at right here is the Battle of Talladega map as made up later after the battle to indicate what all went on. You can see the Indian camp around the spring right there. In fact, they show 2 springs. I believe I know where the 2 are. They show an encirclement of the Indians, and I will show you that. And they also indicate this as being hills. I take this to be the hills behind where the courthouse is, Johnson Hill, that area right there. These over here, I think, are the ones located by Talladega College. Because this spring right here is located right here at the end of Battle Street. Now you're looking at a modern day map of Talladega. Notice the yellow highlight. That is the creeks that I've indicated, one being Town Creek, the other no name. I know where this is exactly. I'm going to take you there and we're going to look at it. This area right here is where the Indians were. And where I'm pointing at right now happens to be over in the college area. So there also is indicated on the map. If you go to Google and look in, right here, it indicates Big Spring. And down here, right there at that point, there's your Big Spring. So we know that relates back to the other map that we just looked at. So let's go over and look at them, see what we think. Well, I got the atlas out. We're fixing to go on an adventure. We're going up to Ohatchee. See this old Fort Strother. Then on to Talladega after that. So come on, let's go. Well, here we are. We made it to our destination, Fort Strother, Creek Indian War headquarters of General Jackson, 1813 to 14. Now, this marker was set up here by a group of people that I think found the fort, but due to funding, was not able to establish it. There are supposedly 76 graves nearby here that from the guys that died at the fort. and to keep people from looting and robbing them. They just never have really identified where it exactly is, so it was placed here. But this is the area where they were. Now I'm going to show you the Coosa River back over here for a minute. The Coosa River at the time was, you know, probably 20 feet wide and knee deep in spots. So it wasn't, when you see this river, it's not going to be what you're looking at. I mean, you're going to see a big lake. It wasn't that during the time. So this is the point where the Indians come to get General Jackson the night before the battle to come to Talladega to rescue the people. So let's go over here to look at the lake. Let's go over here and look at the lake and then make our own way down to Talladega, the way that Andrew Jackson did. Here we're looking at the backwaters of the lake here, behind the dam. As I said, at one time this dam wasn't here, not until 1966 when they built this Neely Henry Dam. But the area we're looking at back in here was that called Canoe Creek. It goes around that bend we're looking at. I just zoomed in on for you. That was there. Notice there was a little hill. I want to say that maybe Fort Strother was located on that hill or near that hill. You know, they call this 10 islands. I think there was 10 different islands here. This was a shoal that you could basically walk across to the other side. So, that's what's here. No telling what's covered up under the water out there that we'll never know about. Here at Fort Strother, outside Ohatchee, Alabama, where Andrew Jackson and his force stayed at mostly while they launched their Indian Creek War campaign. Little visit. So there you go. We're going on down to Talladega now, so let's head that way. Doesn't look like much, does it? Kind of dirty, trash everywhere. This, people, is where the two creeks come together. This is the V in the map. I'll refer you back to it in here so that it'll refresh your mind. What you're looking at is a hand-drawn map of the actual Battle of Talladega that took place on 1813. Andrew Jackson and the local Indians. I hope you can see what I'm showing you right here. This is called Spring. You see this creek that follows down through here with all the red marks? That was where the Indians were. Then there was an intersection. Two creeks come together. The B indicates where the Indians were encamping at, and the A indicates where the Fort Leslie was located at. In records I read, it says 1/4 mile north of the fort. That puts it right there at Talladega College. And I'll show you in a little bit of other map where this intersection is. Of this creek, back in this area I'm looking at right here, this is where the Indians were. This is looking back towards College Hill, it's called. Now, back up this way, we're looking up a hill. This is called Johnson Hill, by the way, that you're seeing up through here. Jackson had a group of men up there. Round over here. Barely we can make it out. It's going to be called Oak Hill. Oak Hill's where a cemetery is nowadays, but days before, there was a group over there. Now, they had these Indians supposedly surrounded. We're half a mile from where the old fort used to be, back down in the south, the way we're looking right now. But this, my friend, was the battleground. This is where it all took place at. 2,000 Indians were in here. I'm sorry. Let me take that back. Told you beginning, some of these things might be true. There were 2,000 Jackson's men here and 1,000 Indians. that fought this battle. A couple hundred Indians were killed. I want to say there's 20 of Jackson's men killed in this fierce battle that took place. 1813, right here in Talladega, Alabama. So I'm going to show you now. I'm going to cut in some old clips I got of where the old fort used to be at. And you can see it. And then we're going to go up here to the cemetery at Oak Hill and talk about it a little bit. What you're looking at, you might think is an old garage, but actually this is where a place called Fort Leslie was at one point when Andrew Jackson and Davy Crocket come down here to rescue these people. Go by it every day, you probably don't even know it, but this is where the fort was. But this is it. It was said that Jackson's men waded in the creek from this way. And the one you're looking at, I played in this creek as a kid all my life on up the way there. Isabel Branch, we used to call it. It's called Town Creek officially. But they waded down through this creek here to surprise them, to get at them, to attack them a little bit more, you know. A little lost history that nobody talks about no more, nobody knows about. These are stream fed. That's indicated on the map. That's why Talladega was started, by the way. It was because of the water, the streams that were here. I'll show you that one more here in a second. So let's go on and look at it a little bit more. This place right here marks the location of the big spring that's indicated on a lot of maps. You're going to see if you look up the history of this area. At one time, this stream run right down through here, pretty well right through the middle of Piggly Wiggly right there, and on down towards the old fort, which is half a mile down the road. Now where we just come from, right over behind that store, it's not more than 1,000 yards away. I don't know if you can see all this, but this depicts where everybody was placed at in this spring, here spring. Part right here, this is where we're standing at. To the right, up that hill right there. That's where some of the men were located at. That was General Isaac Roberts' brigade and Edward Bradley's reserve were there. General Carroll's infantry, right over here on top of Johnson Hill, right there at that big building, that two-story building where you see it. Back down this way, there was Commander William Hall's brigade. And Davy Crockett's men were right in here. So, what we're looking at is all where the battle took place, this whole area, right in here. This is it. Now, another tidbit of information for you. 1833, when Talladega was finally brought in, recognized as a territory, they said that the first courthouse was within a stone's throw of the big spring. Well, we're at the big spring, and how far can you throw a stone? My thinking on this is you got a hill right here. You got a hill right here. And all sloped down. These buildings wasn't here, by the way, back then. I'm thinking about right there would be a good spot for a courthouse. It was a log cabin built within other ridings. They like to bring the horses in and water them all in this area right here at this big spring. So there you go. We're going to go on up here to the cemetery now and look a little bit more. Here we are on top of the hill, looking where there's a group of Jackson's men located prior to being a cemetery. You can see why they took this area. It's high ground. Anytime you're in a battle, that's what you want. You want the high ground. So, and right back in this area, see that church steeple in the distance? That's where the Indian group was, right there at the college. And the courthouse, let's see if I can find it for you. Well, we're looking right at it, just can't see it through the trees. Another perspective for you. Hope you kind of enjoyed what I'm trying to tell you so far. I've showed you this before. I want to show it again, all you have missed it. This is a marker placed here for all the guys killed in the battle we've been talking about. I think there were 20 of them, as I'm told. All the officers and the privates listed as Jackson's men laid to rest right here in Oak Hill Cemetery. This was, well, it don't tell when it was around.
And I walk right by.
What you're looking at, I'm going to weave this into our story, is the marker of the Honorable Samuel Martis. It's got a long epitaph. Don't care to read it all to you, but he's buried here in Oak Hill Cemetery. So you're probably saying, well, what's the Senator Martis got to do with the story? Well, glad you asked that. Martisville, located 5 miles down the road here, site of one of the Indian villages. Site of the Indian village was once called the Land Office. Now, Senator Martis out of, I want to say out of Jefferson County or Shelby County, was assigned to this office to divide up the land in this area around here. And for his great service, the city of Martisville was created. So there you go. That's why how Samuel Martis comes into this little weave of story, and we're going to go on down and tie it in a little bit further. Another bit of information you probably didn't know, the Treaty of March 4th, 1832, between the U.S. and the Creek Indians, land was given to a Negro named Joseph Bruner. And if you look at the tracts of land that was given to him, the tracts were the city of Talladega. Since Bruner was a slave, he could not really own the land, so it was said. So he in turn sold this to Jesse Duncan and others who conveyed it to Talladega County. And another little bit of information about this. We've been talking about Chinnabee, how he rode and got Jackson and helped us out and did all this stuff. We saw where he's buried at. Well, where he got killed at. Well, here we are at the final resting place. Silata Chinnabee, Indian chief, who was along with Andrew Jackson, was said to have went and alerted him and brought him down to Talladega to help the friendly Indians out and the white people that were captured. And this marker marks exactly where the chief's cabin used to stand, and he was buried inside of his cabin. He was allowed to live here by Mr. Elderby until his dying days, and this is where he's buried at, right here. People don't know that. Ride by it every day, never see it. So, a little bit of history for you. We're about 30 miles from where we just come from, heading towards Talladega. This is right here at McElder and Twin Churches Road. Well, we've been talking about Chinnabee and everything. Went saw his grave. Well, this is where it ended at for him. February 10th, 1835. After drinking too much at a local tavern in Talladega County, witness said Silata Chinnabee and Chief Jim Fife left riding their horses fast through Martisville towards Talladega. 1/4 mile from Martisville, the road was divided by a large oak. The horse was aiming for one side and Chinnabee the other, and the demise was he was dashed against a tree and his skull broken. I think it was called HRUI, horse riding under the influence. So that, my friends, ends our story of Chinnabee, Andrew Jackson, Martisville, the whole circle. I hope you've enjoyed it, and see me again next time. We'll do something else. This is Dave Hurst saying goodbye.